It has been a moment since I've recorded a podcast episode, so welcome. If you are new to my podcast, it is the Phoenix Mystery School podcast where I talk about all things to do with spirituality, healing, nervous system regulation, and even some business aspects as well. So, this episode today is specifically dedicated to spirit guides. I haven't fully touched on this enough, and I feel like it's an important topic because no matter who you are on this planet, we all have spirit guides. And you can choose to believe in them or you can choose not to. And that's completely up to you. Because with spirit guides, it really doesn't matter if you give them permission or not, because it is your free will choice. And they know that. They've had lifetimes as a human, they've gone through so many trials and error here to learn and understand not just about emotions, but also about karma, how our choices create consequences, how if we go with our soul and our divinity, how that lines up so much more for us in our physical reality. But they also came here to learn about the difference in this reality and creation with energy. Because when you are in different places, the vibration is different, the density is different, and creation is different. And although when we talk about different planets, dimensions, places, a lot of it is mostly just theory and things that people have experienced through either past life regressions or through their own remote viewing, whatever the case may be. But it's really interesting to see how the spirit guides actually can help us and support us in our normal day-to-day to keep us on track with making our own positive choices, choosing our soul path, and the opportunities that come with that. So this is the one thing I want to stress more than anything, is to one, not be afraid of spirit guides. I know it's interesting when there's different kinds of spirits and there's a lot of fear dynamics that play out in the spiritual community and in so many other communities when it comes to spirits. In some communities, you are seeing like someone with a mental illness if you can see spirits. And in other cultures, it's very fear-based, where majority of things that you will experience, as they say, are demons or evil or whatever you want to make it out to be. But from my perspective and an entire lifetime of dealing with the spirit realm, basically since I was very, very young, the earliest I can remember ever seeing and hearing things from the spirit realm, I was about 4 years old. So it's been a bit. It's been 30 years that I've been working with the spirit realm. And my take, which is my truth, it's not everyone's truth. It's not everyone's belief, and that's okay. And if you resonate, great. I hope you take something away from this conversation. But if you don't, that's okay too. You can tune me out, turn this off, go do whatever you need to. But when it comes to the spirit realm, I found that when I held more fear in my heart and when I didn't feel in control, when I felt like things had control over me, I gave my power outside of myself. That's what I experienced the most in the spirit realm, like the most negative stuff. And over the last couple of years of really disengaging from the drama of the spirit realm, not giving those kinds of spirits the time of day, not feeding into the fear and acting out of fear when it comes to the spirit realm, everything has decreased. I have not had any negative experiences in there pretty much since. This is not to say that it'll never happen. Sure, things might come and go on occasion, but when they do, I know that I'm strong enough to deal with it. I know that I don't have to give it energy. I don't have to give it time, that my energy will repel it. And if I'm not feeling strong enough, I can call in one of my spirit guides to help me. Whether that be one of my full-time guides or one of the temporaries, it's okay. We can ask for them to help. So on that note, about the spirit guides, we all have a team, anywhere between about 1 and 6 spirit guides at any given time. And usually over the course of our lifetime, we build on having spirit guides. We'll take on a new one, like every 5 to 7-ish years. Especially when we're young, up until we get into adulthood. Usually we'll have about 4 when we go into adulthood, and then we'll gain 2 more throughout the course of our adulthood, just depending on what we're doing. And no one is better for having 6, and no one is worse for only having 2. Okay, so I just want to make that clear. Having more or less does not dictate how good you are or how much more enlightened you are. Truly not. And before I go on a side tangent about spiritual hierarchy, I'm just going to keep it at that. Everyone's path is different. Their level of support and what they need is different. And if you only have 1 or 2 guides, you can always call in more. But we have on average 1 to 6. And then we have what I've seen 4 spaces available for temporary guides. Temporary guides come in during a period of time when you're learning something. And they will help you with guidance. They will give you their support, give you their wisdom and expertise during that time, and they will hold you in that frequency. This is why it seems like guides come and go, because usually those are the temporary guides that support you during specific points in time. Like, for example, if you're deciding to learn about some of the ancient gods and goddesses or ancient civilizations, typically you'll have ascended masters from that time or ones that have incarnated in that time frame. Like if you want to learn about Christ consciousness, you're probably going to call in Lord Sananda, also known as Jesus Christ. And you don't have to be Christian or any denomination to believe in Jesus. I believe that he's an ascended master. He's not tied to any one religion. And what he was here to talk about was us finding our own divinity within. We didn't need to go through a middleman to find that. We didn't need to be in a state of perfection. Anyone from any walk of life could do it. And that's what he was showing the masses. Anyone could do this. Of course, it takes change and growth and following your own specific path that's positive for you, which what's positive for me might not be positive for you. So something to keep in mind, because a lot of times we get into judgments around what people should be doing, but we all have different divine energy centers, different capabilities. So it's just something to keep in mind, to hold that sense of compassion when you are working with others, when you are communicating with others. It's very easy to go into spiritual ego. So going back to the guides, like I mentioned, if you're working with Christ consciousness, you'll be working typically with Jesus Christ. There's more ascended masters that also work on that realm, but he is one of the most commonly known. So those temporary guides are here to help you as you learn new things. When I was learning about ancient Egypt, when I was learning about Atlantis and all of those ancient times, when I was learning about feminine empowerment, strength, that warrior and courage from that time, the ascended master that actually came to me was Sekhmet. And when I was really connecting with the aspects of myself that really helps with death dualship, helps with connecting with pretty much all walks of life, and doing the work that I do, making the impact in all different areas that I'm trying to do. When I was learning about actual unconditional love and miracles, the ascended master that came in for me was Mother Mary. And then she also showed me so much more about how the feminine has been distorted and also how the masculine has been distorted. Because usually when we think of the feminine and the issues the feminine have, most people race to blame men. Sure, there is the patriarchy, absolutely. But men have been conditioned and pitted in that direction as well. Both ends of the spectrum helped out with a lot of conditioning, a lot of trauma. And as a result, we have separation consciousness. So blaming one over the other is not what's going to make change and solve anything. Holding that love and compassion and doing things differently, setting boundaries, being very, very clear. Because again, it's easy to go into people pleasing. It's easy to go into ignoring your own needs, ignoring your boundaries, giving people a million chances over when their actions show that they don't respect you or honor you. You can understand that people have been through trauma, this and that. But again, if there isn't that level of respect, if there is tons of disrespect, that's when you need to set boundaries and or walk away. So just a lot of different things that I've learned from Mother Mary. Just how the cycles of things that we see even to this day have been existing for thousands of years. And she showed me all the work that the divine masculine has done, the divine feminine has been paving the way for where we are now. All the lack of safety they went through, all the generational trauma that has happened. These were not things that were choices. These were things that were common, that existed, which is why we have spiritual escapism teachings, because it gave people something to look forward to. If at the end of the day, their whole life of struggle meant they got to go to heaven, that was so much better to think about than this life being worth literally nothing. There's been so much sacrifice, so much they've done for us in the past. And I've mentioned this many times before, but our ancestors, all the previous incarnations, they didn't just give us trauma, they also gave us capabilities. They also gave us strength. They also gave us so many gifts. And it's interesting to think about, because we are going to be the new ancestors one day. We are going to be guides one day. And this is why I love speaking to my guide team, because they talk about, understanding the struggles and the lifetimes that they've had. They went through all of that so that they could better prepare us and better support us, and also continue learning about karma, which is action and consequence. And since this isn't their first rodeo, they can give some pretty good advice. They can give pretty good support. They are reminders daily to be on our path, on our own specific spiritual divine path, which means choosing ourselves, choosing our soul, choosing our gifts. Even if you don't consciously know what they are, if there are certain things that you're drawn to and almost feel natural at it, it doesn't mean you won't have to learn deeper or figure things out to deepen that knowledge. But if certain things come easier to you, like some artistic stuff, and then you start playing around with certain apps, and then you figure out, wow, I actually really enjoy doing this, and you're able to create things. Maybe meditations, or you really like graphic design, things like that, or photography. There's so many different kinds of visual arts But then some people are just really good at communication. And it's unfortunate because with all the ones that have divine communication, what I've noticed is that they feel like they're horrible at it because they're constantly being misunderstood because they're not in the right audience. So being able to stay on your spiritual path means identifying the things that we feel come too naturally or too easy, because we assume that if it's easy for me, everyone must be able to do this. It must be so simple. But I can almost guarantee you what is easy for you is probably not going to be for a good 70% of people. And then you're not allowing your gift to shine because you're not really seeing it as that. So I encourage you to move forward, taking steps that are positive for you. And so many of you know what those steps are. You know what actions that you need to take in your immediate environment with the people that you love. Maybe it's something that you need to change about yourself. And not because you need to fix anything or anything is wrong, but maybe you want to be a better support or a better friend or a better partner. There's nothing wrong with that. Or maybe you've given certain people too many chances and there's too much drama. And it's a constant cycle of gossip and shame. But you don't know how to get out of that cycle. Or it feels like you don't know how to get out of that cycle. You know when things aren't congruent to you because you'll feel depleted, you'll feel tired, you won't be sleeping well, and you probably will go into some rumination, at times even some anxiety. But mostly from certain interactions and experiences, you'll be feeling very, very drained. You can tell the difference because when you're around supportive people, even if you are having a bad day, typically you feel lighter and you both feel energized together. So also identifying if there's any areas in which you feel like you need to overgive. Maybe you don't say no when you really need to. How are you with identifying when things are too much and creating some balance for yourself? It starts to get simple to realize when you're not in alignment, when you start looking at the choices that you're making. Do these really actually suit me? Do these actually feel good? Are these the choices I really want to make? Or am I sacrificing, or am I making a bargain here? Am I trading love for money? Those kinds of things. What is really important to you, and are you actively choosing that? These are things that when we're actually connected with our guides, they will subtly remind us of every single day. And all you need to do is just tell your spirit guide team, hey, I'm open to your guidance and assistance. That's all it takes. You can say it out loud or in your head, and you don't need to say it every single day. You can just say, hey, this is an open invitation to my spirit guide team who are here assisting me in my evolution and connecting to my divine self. I give you permission from now until I revoke it to help me and to guide me and to support me. That's it. You don't need to go into this big, long meditation unless you really want to spend more time communicating with them. Then absolutely, fly at her, do a meditation, call them in, figure out who they are if you want. But usually those on your spirit guide team, usually they're not going to be like this archangel or a big name descended master. Those typically come in temporarily as temporary guides when we're working through specific things. But usually your normal spirit guide team, they're just either regular angels and guides that have been through more than a few lifetimes on Earth. You can get a name from them if you choose. Sometimes they'll just give you a really easy to understand name, nothing profound. You might get something like Andrew, so don't be disappointed. Please don't be disappointed. We all expect something like big and grandiose when connecting with our spirits or other places. And while you'll definitely feel that intense vibration of love, it's usually not going to be this like crazy weird name. Sometimes, yeah, sure. One of them I've gotten in the past was Azaria, which is interesting. But I don't put too much into what the names are. It's great to have so you can connect. It's like a form of connection, right? A name is kind of like an act of consciousness, just like a symbol. It's a gateway. You can connect when you know what that is. So I just wanted to kind of take out any fluff around spirit guides, any overcomplicated aspects around it, because they really help us to uphold our divine nature. That is their job. And sometimes we do have guides that have helped us uphold a negative coping mechanism because that was the choice we made. So, in order to keep making that choice, we bring in a guide, and they're not inherently negative, but they're the ones that can help you just uphold that. But again, you can always change. So, the thing about the guides, if you decide to choose, hey, I don't want to live this way anymore. For example, I don't want to make a sacrifice, like giving up love for wealth. So, say you marry for money instead of love. But at any point, you can make the choice that, hey, I don't want this anymore. I want both. I want to be able to be wealthy, but I also want to love the partner I'm with. And you can make that choice. So you can either leave the situation that you're in if that love really isn't there, and then start making those positive choices by choosing love and not sacrificing and going the opposite end of it's either or. And then from there, you can rework your pattern by choosing it every single day. It might take a little bit longer, but you can definitely make those changes and choices, and also change your karma, which is really exciting. Because people think once you're stuck in a pattern, oh, that's it, we're doomed. But not really. I would say 6 to 12 months of consistent action on something, you can completely rewrite a pattern. And for those of you saying, oh, but I don't have 6 months, is it better to go 6 to 12 months with actively focusing on reworking a pattern, or spend an entire lifetime of choosing the same thing that's continuously bringing you unhappiness? 6 to 12 months is a short period of time in the bigger picture of our life. And you can also go in for healing sessions to do this a lot quicker if you choose. But just remember, healing sessions, they don't end when you walk out the door from your practitioner. Your work begins at that moment. Your practitioner will highlight things to you and bring things up, and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And even though, yes, they are starting to reconnect different areas of the body and helping you to expedite the process, you still need to choose differently. If you have all the awareness in the world and you continue choosing the things that are not making you happy, that are not making you fulfilled, then you'll just stay in the same cycle, and no amount of healing sessions is going to change that. But the healing session can expedite the process if you let it. And that's not meant to be a judgment or a shame piece, but just recognizing that when your practitioner talks to you about what you're dealing with, tune into the pieces that really resonate, or maybe the real ouch bits, and focus on them beyond the session. Because too many times, especially over the last 11, 12 years that I've been doing this professionally, healing work, is that people come in thinking, oh, when I do this and I do the session with you, I'm changed for life and I don't ever have to think about it again. Sometimes for some people, it really shifts their mindset really quickly, and it shifts things in their body really fast, so that they're like, yeah, now I'm going to make different choices, and they may not even realize it. Sometimes people self-sabotage, and that's normal too. But don't look at your practitioner like someone who's going to fix you, because there's nothing wrong with you. There might be things you want to change to be your most optimal self, but don't look at it like there's something wrong with you and you need to be fixed. I really, really want to implore you to challenge that narrative when you go for healing. Look at it as the vehicle to understand yourself, to be more self-aware, and to help shift things more efficiently. But it's still work that you can do actively, but practitioners will shine a blind spot, which is why they're so beneficial. And yes, healing does take place, but again, you still have to choose that healing every day beyond. And I bring these pieces up because, again, this is where our spirit guides really come into play. So if these spirit guides resonate with you, if this whole concept does, and if you've never actually given them permission to guide you and to keep you on your divine soul path, that is my loving suggestion to you, is to do that. And then notice what unfolds around you. How do you feel day to day? Do you feel a different spark when you're making decisions? Do you double think something that you might have never thought twice about before? And not in a self-doubt way, but just a, maybe this isn't the right choice for me. Listen to those little inner nudges, because that is your team trying to communicate to you. But I'm going to say not all gut drops mean something is wrong. Sometimes it can mean there's energy channels that haven't been closed. And this is what I learned through my guides recently, is that they point me to directions with people and circumstances to clear it up. Not because anything's wrong or they're doing anything wrong, even if it was from 5-ish years ago. It's like, hey, this needs to be cleaned up if they're like in an immediate relationship with me. And I'm not going to dive into details on this, but it's something that I've noticed. Times where I thought things were wrong in my relationship, it wasn't at all. There were just some energy leaks that were still open, and they just needed to be shut down. And once they were cleared, all that gut drops, that gross feeling completely went away. So just something that I've learned, especially if you haven't been in safe relationships, friendships, things like that, some things might feel like a trigger warning in the body, only because it reminds you of a time where it was a trigger for something. So it's interesting because, yes, there are red flags. But then sometimes there are other things completely where it's not actually a red flag. It's just an energy leak that needs to be closed off. So again, your guides will guide you to so many different things to look at. And sometimes when we're triggered by that, we can go into a sense of fight or flight. So it's imperative that as you work through these different choices, you also work on relaxing your mind and your body. Because then and only then, you'll be able to get clear answers. Doesn't mean you can't get answers when you're in that state, but believe me, it's harder to discern the emotional aspect of it or if it's intuition. So if you notice the emotions, the sensations in the body of the fight or flight, again, loving suggestion to go into some balancing techniques. So give that a try with your guides. And I would love to hear from you. What has changed from your day-to-day? Any feelings that you're noticing? Any emotions? Any differences? Do you feel like you have a connection to them now? And then just ask them for the guidance. But also remember to trust yourself in your decisions and be balanced with the askings. I know I've gone into the extremes of asking them for every small, minute thing. What should I do? And they do have personalities. Anyone that tells you a guy does not have personality, I don't know who they're talking to, but they're not AI. They're not robots. Okay? They have personalities. Believe me, there's been times where I've literally heard them sigh and say, I'm pretty sure you can figure this out on your own. It was at that moment I realized, oh, whoops. I've been relying on them a little too much. And they're telling me now to really just trust myself. There's been times where they have definitely intervened. And not to change my free will choice, but to be like, hey, are you really sure about this? You know? They've thrown things in my face to be like, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this. Almost like the frying pan to the face. So really try that and see how it goes for you. You may not hear them or see them, and that's okay. You might just have like an inner knowing or a feeling. However you use your intuition, trust that. And again, like I mentioned, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear how connecting with them and giving that permission, if you felt any changes in your body immediately, because I did. I felt tingles from head to toe. I could feel that deep love frequency from them. And that is something that any negative spirit cannot mimic. You cannot mimic the frequency of love. And it'll be so powerful when you feel it. You will know when you feel it because it's just so overwhelming. Even if you're used to feeling love, this is nothing in comparison. It brings me happy, joyful tears every single time. All right. So let me know if you have any other takes on spirit guides, what your experience has been. You can always share that with me on my email at trinitysage333@gmail.com. Or hey, you can find me on Facebook, TikTok. My Facebook is facebook.com/cassandra.finch28. I'm pretty sure all my social links are on this page. So feel free to find me. And on TikTok and Instagram, I'm Phoenix Mystery School. I look forward to hearing about your experience with your spirit guides. Happy connecting!